Howdy, folks. I'm Cheery Clara, carefully carrying cherished cargo.
I'm Amber.
And here's more cherished cargo for us to carry, such as some walnuts that might need some breaking open in some way, shape, or form. But let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Wanting My Husband to Give His Christmas Bonus to My In-Laws? My husband and I have professional careers, and despite being fairly young, we have made good choices that allow us to buy a home and build a modest savings account while also caring for our 3 young children. We have managed to avoid accumulating any debt apart from our mortgage. This meant delaying the purchase and saving up and paying with cash. Currently, we both drive cars that are over 10 years old, and we had hoped to replace them within the next 2 years without incurring debt. On the other hand, my husband's parents are financially irresponsible. For their anniversary last year, they bought matching Teslas, even though they had a new truck that cost them over $100,000 and had recently remodeled their home. Despite this debt, and having 15 years before retirement and no savings or retirement funds at all, my father-in-law decided to cut his hours to part-time because he disliked his 1-hour commute. Just a few weeks later, he and my mother-in-law took a 2-week vacation to the Bahamas. When they returned, he was let go from his job. Now, with my mother-in-law only working 3 days a week as a receptionist in a doctor's office, they are facing financial struggles. Typically, everyone comes here for Thanksgiving, since we have plenty of room for everyone to stay without getting a hotel. It's always worked nicely, and it saves us from having to travel with 3 children under 5 across the country. However, since my mother-in-law used up all of her paid time off on their Bahamas trip, we had to fly there instead. Airfare for the 5 of us was close to $3,000, plus another $800 for the Airbnb, since my in-laws only had room for my sister-in-law, her boyfriend, and college roommate. It was hectic, but we were not too upset over the cost since my husband had just learned that he would be receiving a $10,000 Christmas bonus. My husband was excited, but chose not to mention the bonus, not wanting to come across as bragging when they were struggling. However, my sister-in-law found out about the bonuses through a friend of hers who also works for the same company and brought it up during Thanksgiving dinner. Later that night, on our drive back to the Airbnb, my husband said that his mom had approached him privately and asked if he would consider giving them his bonus as a gift, since it was an unexpected blessing. And he was torn. I understand that it's not my bonus and that we should want to help his family. However, I can't help but feel that they partially contributed to their situation. I'm also upset that outside of my mother-in-law letting us know that she will not be buying gifts this year, even for the grandkids, my in-laws have not adjusted their spending habits. They still shop at Whole Foods and just updated their iPhones, while we drive older cars, cook at home, shop for sale items at Walmart. Outside of this Thanksgiving trip to her house, in the last 7 years we've been married, we've never gone on vacation. I don't know what to do. I feel guilty because I know that my husband hates to see his parents struggling, but I can't help but feel a little resentment because they have made poor choices, and our family will be further behind because of it. Alright, folks, and there is an update to this one a little bit, but it's not really an update. There's just more information here. Update. Thank you all for the responses. To answer a few questions I've seen. 1, I heard them discussing that they are upside down on the vehicles, more so on the truck, because they have put almost just under 80,000 miles on it between my father-in-law's commutes, as well as visiting my sister-in-law at college over the past 2 years, believing that this was their reason for buying the Teslas since they are in a rural area and the commute was taking a lot of fuel. Also, the reason that they are not considering selling them. I do not believe that they can get assistance due to their home. When they downsized 5 years ago due to the area that they lived in, they bought it for $1.5 million. Mother-in-law was salty about the smaller house, but father-in-law wanted to get out of the city. Sister-in-law has another year of college and plans to move in with her boyfriend next semester. She doesn't work. Her boyfriend graduated last year and works in IT. The person sister-in-law knows at the company doesn't directly know my husband, but knew some of the departments received large bonuses this year. My sister-in-law thought that it was his department and asked if he had received one too. It was taxed, and it was a little over $6,000 now. I have not said anything, but I do feel that this would not help them since this is not the first time they have used money for other things. Part of my husband's recruitment package was a student loan reimbursement up to $12,000. Pre-grad needed his parents' help, and they took out a parents' loan for $6,000. He sent his parents a check for the full amount so that it could be paid off. A year later, they casually brought up that it was due and needed to be paid. When he asked about it, they said that they decided to use the money for something else and kept the loan because the payments were low. I feel that they do not know how to budget or have a desire to. Some people brought up Dave Ramsey. You are correct, that's what our family uses. A few years ago, my father-in-law tried to put my mother-in-law on a budget. I had just started doing my own hair. Mother-in-law noticed my products and started asking questions and said, I guess I need to learn how to do my own hair because father-in-law told me that I need to cut things out. I brought up the program and their eyes glazed over. 6. I am also worried about coming down to the need for them to move in with us. We did buy a large house because we planned to build equity and wanted the kids to each have their own room as they get older. After we bought our home, my mother-in-law mentioned that they never lived in a home this large. We paid a third of what they paid for their home and put almost 40% down. It isn't just his parents, I'm afraid. Sister-in-law has the same mindset. She has maxed out credit cards and bought a new car when there was nothing wrong with her old car. She's not working and doesn't have a plan after college. She always calls us rich and for holidays requests gifts that we can't even afford to buy ourselves. Every single meal out while visiting either there or here has always assumed that he will pick up the check. It's sickening to watch all of the unnecessary spending. All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
Not the jerk. And I mean, I understand that the husband is technically the one who earned this money, but usually in a partnership, even with separate finances, big purchases the couple will usually talk about together and get approval together.
Well, not to mention this. They just spent $3,000 flying out here, right? They have $3,000 left. And that's really what this boils down to. They don't even have the $10,000, and the mother-in-law would be expecting them to give them the whole $10,000. So they are not only going to be down $3,000, but they'll be down to $13,000.
Yeah, well, and then the Airbnb costs on top of that, like they spent closer to $4,000 on that trip alone, and yeah, it also wouldn't help. Like, the problem is that no amount of money is going to be enough when people can't budget.
Well, that's really what it boils down to. And, you know, like I've always kind of said, is if you don't control your spending will control you. They are to the point where they are facing consequences, major consequences, for their inability to save money. They are insolvent. They need to work out a budget like yesterday. If they don't do this, then they are going to go bankrupt. And no amount of begging, pleading, or crying is going to help them out because they are insolvent. And this is not going to be something that OP or her husband can even possibly dream to help them out with. This is a huge hole that they've dug themselves.
And so if they help with anything like a financial planner, you know, some way to help them budget. And I know mother-in-law and father-in-law don't want to budget. And so, like, the OP and her husband can make that offer. Mm-hmm. But if they don't want to take it, don't give them anything.
Well, this is just it. Who wants to budget? Mm-hmm. No one wants to budget. Everyone would love to spend all of the money that they could possibly spend, right? Budgeting isn't fun, but it's necessary. Mm-hmm. You know, it isn't like we get great joy out of balancing our budget, you know? That's really what this boils down to. It sounds like OP and her husband are very financially sound. They're smart. And they're doing what they can. And everyone looks at them and they say, oh, you must be rich. No, they're not rich. They've budgeted. Yeah. They know how much they can afford, and they're not making unnecessary spendings. So, you know, take for instance, if you spend $5 every single day on like coffee or something like that, right? When you could make it at home for 50 cents. That means that after a year, you know, you spent close to $1,500 or so, right? On basically just coffee. And you could have spent $150 instead. That's a huge difference in the amount of money that you can spend. You need to look at really the long-term accumulation of costs and not just the single one-off costs, because you might be like, oh, it's just $20 now. Well, if it's $20 today and it's $20 tomorrow, how much is that going to be in the future, right? How much is that in a decade? And that's really what it boils down to when you budget, is just getting your finances under control and seeing how much things do cost on a daily basis. But that's what I think. And I've pontificated for far too long on this matter. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Snoo Hesitation says, oh my goodness, absolutely do not give the check to them. You already spent thousands on for holidays. They need some serious help for a shopping addiction. If he gives them money now, what is it for? Or is it just going to be more spending money? He needs to tell them that they need to see a financial planner ASAP. And Purple Stars in the Sky says, if your husband gives in this year, what happens if he gets the same bonus next year and the year after that, etc.? He will be expected to give them the bonus every year. I understand that your husband is torn, but if the parents are struggling, they can sell one or both of the cars and get cheaper models. Father-in-law needs to find another job ASAP too. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for wanting to Photoshop my stepdaughter out of our wedding photos? I just married my wife. We've been together for almost 2 years. She has a daughter, almost 2 years old, from a previous relationship. Bio dad isn't in the picture. The wedding was back in September, and her daughter was around 18 months at that point. She was going to be our flower girl. We had arranged for her regular babysitter to stay with her during the ceremony and take her home for the reception. But right when the wedding started, she had a meltdown and only wanted her mom, so my wife held her through the entire wedding ceremony. She got hungry and cranky during the ceremony, so my wife tried passing her off to the babysitter so that she could have a snack, but she wasn't having any of it, so my wife held her daughter while her daughter was eating a Ziploc bag of dry cereal during our wedding ceremony. She was also with my wife throughout the reception. We just got back the pictures, and a lot of them have the baby eating cereal with my wife's hip in them. I told my wife that I wanted to Photoshop her out of some of the pictures and put up the Photoshopped ones. At least make it look like the wedding went as we had planned it to go. My wife thinks that the pictures of her daughter are cute and wants to hang those up. She doesn't see why we would Photoshop anybody out of the wedding pictures. I told her that I wanted the pictures to look a little bit more elegant, and the baby eating cereal out of a Ziploc bag isn't exactly elegant. She's upset now because she thinks that I'm trying to erase her daughter and is currently sleeping in her daughter's room. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
I'm going to say that, yeah, Opie's being a little bit of a jerk here. Like, if you really want some photos without the daughter in them, like maybe do a couple's photo shoot just together, but I don't like the idea of trying to change the wedding day and making it into something it wasn't.
Yeah, what happens if this is a little bit more darker and sinister, as in he never really wanted to have the daughter in pictures, period?
Well, that's the biggest concern, but even if we go the charitable route,
yeah,
the daughter was there in the wedding.
Yeah,
she was part of the day.
Yeah,
she was eating Cheerios in the wedding, and like I understand that that's not like glamorous, but it's a very nice like memory to look back on, you know. And I don't feel like it's nice or fair to cut the daughter out of that. You know, even if he's just concerned about aesthetics, he could always take other photos. But the wedding day, daughter was there. Daughter was in them. It's nice if you can just roll with it and see the humor and joy in those things.
Well, yes, it also brings a human element to things, and things don't always go perfectly. Often things don't go perfectly. So I think that if OP is really concerned about image here, then they should be less concerned about image and more concerned about family and the memories that they forged. But if OP is being not a good person, is really just trying to erase the daughter, period, so that eventually when they have their own child together, that he can ignore her like so many other Reddit stories that come out, then that's terrible, and hopefully the other red flags come out sooner.
Well, yeah, and I can definitely see why his wife is upset about this, because that is a legitimate concern. When he goes, oh yeah, I want to Photoshop your daughter out of our wedding photos. Yeah, that is not a good look. And
no, it is not. If someone were to write this from the other side, where the husband wanted to Photoshop out my daughter from my wedding pictures, we would be like, yeah, that's not really good. That's a kind of a red flag. So, but let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Did you hear the story of the monster who ate Cleveland?
I did. I heard the story of the monster who ate Cleveland. He thought that it was a giant Cheerio, but it turns out that it was Ohio.
Never mind. You'd never swallow it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I have Mega Mint, which probably confuses people because I had Mega Mint yesterday and I forgot that today is Monday. Mega Mint Monday. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday. I hope your week is starting off well. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it in exactly 7 words.
Learn to appreciate life's flaws and imperfections.
Oh, you know what? I like that one. I like that one a lot. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.